It's good that we have you on today because there are a lot of questions and a lot of conversation that I've wanted to do with you. I don't know if that makes sense. But we want to talk about sort of like your early days and your start. So you started, when you got into college, you studied botany and biology. Can you tell us like what your mindset was with that and like what you were planning to do with that?
Yeah, just when growing up in Humboldt County, you're surrounded by redwoods and ocean, and it's hard to not kind of just fall in love with that. So I figured might as well just get a degree in that, since I kind of knew the plants and I knew what was edible and what was not just from living here and that kind of thing. It was following your passion, really. I remember as a kid just liking like ospreys and eagles, and my dad got me a book, and so I was like an early ornithologist. Mm-hmm. And then it was flowering plants, and then it was mushrooms. I mean, in Humboldt County, there's crazy mushrooms and fungi around here, and there's not many places in the world you can study in it. It just so happened you can study mycology at Cal Poly Humboldt. Back then it was HSU. Oh, yeah. So it was really just following one passion after another. And you know what, that's a lot like entrepreneurs, following your passion. Yeah. But you know, my parents were teachers. It just sort of seemed like you do what you know. And I was studying and probably to be a teacher at some point. I did really kind of think of teaching in college. And Bryn Mawr is this weird college that I'd never heard of growing up on the West Coast. It's an East Coast college, and it's one of the last remaining all-women's colleges, and it's part of this, what's known as the Seven Sisters. And if you actually watch, what's his name in the cartoon? His sister wanted to go to Bryn Mawr College. Oh, I'm totally blanking. That's terrible. You can just phase that one out. What's the guy's name? The Simpsons. Okay. If you watch The Simpsons, Lisa has a dream and wants to go to Bryn Mawr College. So anyway, small little story there. I'd never heard of Bryn Mawr College, but it's a important, what do they call those schools? Liberal arts schools. Okay. Which is very different than HSU. So it was a great part of my learning experience too, coming out of Cal Poly, which is very technical. And I was in resources and botany, and I was just learning to, work as a professional biologist. And then I got a job teaching at a liberal arts colleges, and it's much more about just critical thinking. Just what does it even mean to be a scientist, than it is to learn everything you have to know about a particular field. It's much more about learning how to write, learning how to think, learning policy. So liberal arts education is a slightly different type of education.
Yeah. Wait, so Bryn Mawr, what was like it known for? Because you know how like Harvard is known for like law or like business. Mm-hmm. Was Bryn Mawr known for biology, or you just happened to go there and take?
No, it's known for. It was a women's college, so it's known for liberal arts. It's expensive. And there's a lot of international, so if you are part of the elite of Zimbabwe or Micronesia, or like, where do you send your daughter to get the best schooling you can? Okay. You send her to Bryn Mawr College, it turns out. So I met a lot of really high, fancy elites from all around the world. Nice. And I had no idea, right? It's just weird. They're just freshmen in college, but you start talking to them in a biology lab, and they've never done laundry for themselves ever, and you're just like, what are you talking about? So what is it known for? It was interesting. I mean, it produces a lot of leaders. It produces a lot of people in politics. It produces a lot of publishers and writers. It's a different sort of, I guess that's what it's known for.
Nice. Okay. What was I going to say? Okay, so yeah, with the biology degree, you then transitioned into the business world, right? You didn't go to school for business. Did you ever have like any idea what business was? Or
No,
like how did
yeah.
that happen?
Being from a small town, and my parents were educators, and they all hung out with other teachers, and I didn't know what really business was at all. I didn't take a single business class. I didn't take a single economics class. And I took a lot of, just plant pathology, plant physiology, soils. Then I studied my master's degree in mycorrhizal fungi, which are fungi that live with trees in a mutualistic symbiosis. It was the furthest thing that I'd ever thought about doing, except that, 10 years in, at Bryn Mawr, it's outside of Philadelphia, so I'm living in a big city on the East Coast, and I'm feeling kind of out of my realm there. Like it was very eye-opening, a time of a lot of learning for me, because again, coming from a small town and on the West Coast. But then my wife and I had kids, so that was like, well, let's raise them in a more wholesome place. Let's raise them where they can go to the beach and walk in the redwoods. And I'd met my wife at Cal Poly, so she totally loved this area too. So it was time to move back, and business and entrepreneurship just became a necessity. We wanted to move back. I basically had to create myself a job. So it was out of necessity that I got into entrepreneurship.
Nice. Okay, yeah, because I feel like I'm kind of in a similar place right now where like I'm having trouble finding work. And I started my business 2 years ago and hoping to turn it into a full-time job. And I was ready to, but obviously there's some like hurdles with business. And me being ready to dive into it since I graduated back in May, some things happened where maybe it's not the best time for me to turn this into a full-time job, but I'm also having trouble finding a regular job to like substitute like my like what I'm losing right now by not doing any work for my business. So I'm kind of just been creating a job for myself in that sense. And like with the podcast, I hope for this to become a job that pays, and then continue with my video business where I go and do client work and just make that a full-time job. And I also met, hopefully someday wife, but my girlfriend like the first week in college.
There you go.
So that's like cool that you said that you had to make a job for yourself because it was harder to find one. And I feel like I'm on a similar path that way as well. So I'm like trying to figure things out as I go.
Well, that's something that I used to advise freshmen and then the biology majors. And so I had one-on-one advising back at Bryn Mawr College too. And it's very common to sort of, you want a job and a career, and then you just have to move wherever that job and career takes you. But some people want to live in a place, and that happens a lot in Humboldt County. It's just so nice.
Yeah.
But what are you going to do? And that's why I think we have a lot of creatives here. We have a huge art, culture here. We have more artists per capita than anywhere in North America, apparently. I hear that all the time. I don't know how they figured that out. But I think it's because it's like, I just have to live in this beautiful place. I guess I'm just going to create art and sell it and try to create my own way.
Yeah.
But that's also a phenomenon around the world. We often think of the United States as like the flagship entrepreneur most capitalist society in the world. But the highest rate of entrepreneurship in the world by levels of magnitude is Colombia and other countries around South America. Then it's up through Central America, and then in India and certain Micronesian. So it's where you kind of have to create yourself a job.
Yeah.
Is where you see entrepreneurship. I mean, you go to Colombia, every other window is selling something out their window just walking down the street.
Yeah.
It's like, I got arepas here, I got pupusas over here, I got like tamales over there. It's like you go to the colegios, that go to the high schools there. They all are selling something that their mom is making, and they're selling lunch to each other. Like everybody's an entrepreneur there.
Yeah.
And so,
Yep.
So that was a lot of my story. I was teaching, but I wanted to move back here. My wife got a teaching job, and so we were going to just do it. We got 2 kids, so what was I going to do? I found a partner who had the oldest vineyards in Humboldt County. It was the only, it's called American Viticulture Area, which is an AVA, so it's the only formalized grape growing region in Humboldt County. So we had Willow Creek AVA, which means you could legally say that on the label. That's an unfair advantage right there, right? And he wasn't even using the grapes. They were just sitting there. He was growing other stuff. He was a big farmer. He bought this big property up in Willow Creek, and he was like, "You think you can make money off of this?" And I was like, "This is an unfair advantage. I'm in the wine industry. I know this stuff. I mean, I love the wine." Right before I taught at Bryn Mawr, I worked in San Luis Obispo County in California, and that's where I got into the wine industry. So for 2 years, I just was making wine at a big winery down there. And so I knew all the legality of that. I'm like, Humboldt County has this AVA. It's actually one of the oldest AVAs. It's one of the smallest. It's the most northern. It had all these like onlys. And I didn't know anything about business, but that sounded like an unfair advantage to me. So that sounds like a market niche. That sounds like, oh, I know Humboldt County likes to buy local. That was it. That was like the beginning of the idea that I just kind of pitched to this guy as we were walking through the vineyard. He was like, write a business plan. And I'm like, sure. Thinking, I've never taken a business class. I don't know what I'm talking about. But, being educated and being a teacher, I was teaching people to write. I'm like, well, if I can teach people to write, I can figure this out. It was in the time of Google. It was 2011, I had to write this business plan. So I just, Googled a template, a business template. But I also had...
real quickly, what does AVA stand for?
Oh, yeah, American Viticultural Area.
Oh, okay. So
AVA is American Viticultural Area. It's a legal designation given by the states to special growing regions. You can only get it if you can prove it's kind of unique and special.
Oh, okay. So that's what you did, and then that's how. Okay.
So it was already there. There were some pioneers back in the 1980s that got the AVA, but these vines were planted back then and then kind of abandoned. So anyway, but there it goes to the I'm going to write a business plan. I think there's something here, right? There's something unique about this. Could we turn it into a business? And I had my wife's Uncle Pete, who's a venture capitalist, and he has started dozens and dozens of businesses.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, I'll just talk to Uncle Pete. How do you write a business plan? And I think we've talked about this story before, but I bring it up a lot in my workshops that I teach on how to start a business, because it's a little odd. And the first thing he said to me as I walk in, I'm like, I need help with a business plan. And he says, what's your exit? And I just hit me, and I stopped and I paused. It was like cognitive dissonance. I was like, what do you mean? I'm trying to write a business plan to get into business, and you're telling me the first thing I need to think about is how to get out?
Yeah.
But it was the best advice. And I say to, again, every business venture and new idea, if somebody comes in and wants to start a business, it really makes you think about, what do you want from your business? Do you want to marry your business and die with it? Do you want to grow it and sell it? Do you want it to create wealth for yourself? Is it a hobby business? It's like, so all that starts to get you thinking about, well, what are you going to build and how's it going to work for you?
Yeah, that's like I never had someone tell me like, think about the exit. So when you were like, do you want to marry it? Do you want to get wealthy from it? Or do you want to eventually sell it? Like for me, like I want to marry it and die with it, Like
Cool.
that's my thing.
That's how most people get involved,
Yeah.
and they think there's no other way.
Yeah.
But keep thinking about it, because what it did allow me to do every day is say, okay, if I do want to exit, what do I need this business to do for me?
Yeah.
And a lot of people come in to get business advice from the Small Business Development Center, and they're like, I'm ready to sell my business. It's about a 3-year, usually 5-year project from that moment. And they're ready then. So it's already too late. So what it did for me is I made sure my books were in order. I made sure I showed growth every year. I knew there wasn't going to be profitability. That was in my business plan. I'm like, I'm not going to be profitable until year 7, right? It didn't happen because there was all kinds of disruptions and pivots and things happen. Yeah. But every year I increased revenue. And so when I went back to my financial backers, they were like, oh, this is going in the right direction, right? Constantly thinking like, that's what I have to show.
Yeah.
Especially if you're using other people's money. Here's a great one. You can do business OPM. That was, again, from my Uncle Pete. OPM. He's like, you know what OPM is, Will? He says, other people's money. So that's a venture capitalist point of view. OPM is other people's money. So I had success, building a business, OPM, and but it gives you have extra, well, I don't know. Every business, whether it's your money or somebody else's, you have a lot of responsibility, right? Yeah. The exit just kept me focused on making the business look really good in case I needed to get out.
Yeah. I like that, OPM.
OPM, man.
Yeah.
So when you first got in the winery world, was it just a job? Was it just an opportunity for employment? Or did you see right away that I want to get into ownership, I want to get into, the management side of the operation?
That's a good question because I was in academia. I wanted to be a researcher and then just a teacher. So all my stuff was just writing papers and doing research. And I never thought about the practical application necessarily of what I was doing. So I graduate, I have student debt. Oh no, I need to repay it. Oh no, I need a job. I applied to teach at College of the Redwoods, didn't get that job. Oh no. And I fell into wine by accident, like total accident. I actually got a job where I was going to grow mushrooms for a big giant mushroom producer in Watsonville in Monterey County. And it was during 2000, and you guys were kids back then, but 2000, 2001 was the .com bubble in Silicon Valley. It was the rise of Netscape and the first internet companies. And it was the first big tech bubble. You could not find a place to rent anywhere in the Bay Area.
Like rent?
And rent a place just to live.
Wow.
My wife and I, girlfriend at the time, were looking for a place to live down there so I could work at this mushroom factory. I was going to grow mushrooms commercially. And we were at it for 2 months, and we kept seeing the same people. And it was just like a circuit. They're like, yeah, you just got to get on a wait list. Eventually you might get a spot. And so we go to the next open house, and there they all are. We drive an hour north to some other place. Maybe we'll drive an hour north and live in Watsonville. Same people were there too. There was literally, Silicon Valley was blowing up. .coms.
Was it like
money everywhere? Nobody could find a job. I was like, this is crazy.
Like the real estate people who were renting out the place, they just monopolized everything?
No, there's just so many people wanting to live in the Bay Area, everything cost so much, and so any cheap place
was just so high.
The demand was so high during that time. The economy was so hot in that area that we couldn't find a place to live. I literally couldn't start my job on time because I didn't have a place. My wife and I are like sleeping on my boss's couch to be. Like, we're like, he's like, well, just stay with me until you get a job. But my wife and I are there in somebody else's space, and we're like getting at each other's throat. We can't find a place. We're like, sucks. What are we doing? Maybe this isn't the right choice. She decides to go back up north to Humboldt. This was down in Monterey, and I have a good friend who lived in San Luis Obispo at the time, Joel. So I was like, all right, I'm going to go to see Joel for a couple days. You're going to go back home. We'll talk later. I end up at Joel's, and it's like early August. And he says, I work in the wine industry. Every harvest time, we hire a whole bunch of people because harvest is so busy. You got to pick grapes. You got to squash the grapes. Everything in wine is like 3 months. From the end of August to middle of November, December. Like, entire production cycle is right then and there. Oh, wow. So it's insane. And basically, if you ever need a job, just go down into the wine industry, they'll take anybody who has a pulse during that period. It may be temporary, but literally if you can pick up about 50 pounds of grapes or a barrel of wine and you have a pulse, they'll put you to work because it's just so much work. Okay. So he got me a job. But he got me a pretty good job because I was educated and I knew science. And so he put me in, I got a job as an assistant in a wine lab, and those are called enologists. And I was an assistant enologist. And the only reason I really got a job is because they ran 24/7. They ran all day long, and I was just the night shift wine chemist. I was the wine chemist, and every truckload of grapes comes in. You need to test the sugar, the acid, the pH, add some SO2, add things if the grapes are out of balance. The big presses are running constantly, and so you need somebody with a scientific background to properly take samples and run some chemistry on it. So I had never done this, right? I mean, UC Davis pumps these people out. UC Fresno pumps these kind of winemakers out. Again, never had a job, never had a class in winemaking or anything. But because of my science background, I'm like, hell yeah, I know what a titration is. I know how to test the pH. And I convinced them that I could run their night lab. So ran a night shift. Oh my God, slept during the day. Funny enough, my wife got a job at our sister winery. There was 2 wineries really close by. She gets kind of the same job.
Really?
At this other winery, and she was working the day, and we would like pass each other. I mean, we would see each other in the car because I was doing night shift and she was doing the day shift.
Oh, that's cool.
And we were both running wine labs, and it was a fun time. It was fun, and I just fell in love with it. The question was, no, I didn't know, but I absolutely fell in love with it. I was like, it's chemistry, it's microbiology. You have to take care of yeast and bacteria. That's what converts the wine to alcohol and does all the good stuff that makes it wine. It starts in the vineyard. You have to understand soils and water holding capacity. You have to understand plant pathology. I was a plant pathologist. I mean, literally certified. I could tell if the plants were diseased and what they needed or nutrient deficient. So starting in the vineyard all the way to making the wine, it was fantastic. Again, I wish somebody just told me. I was like, I could have gone to school for this? Are you kidding me? So I keep telling my kids, you can become a winemaker if you want.
Yeah. I bet you scored some free cases too.
So I worked on, again, this bigger company ran all the time. They had a bottling line, and it pretty much ran 24/7 too. And every 2 hours I had to take a bottle off and do a QC and just test it and make sure it wasn't, it was basically seeing if there's any bacteria in the bottling line.
Oh yeah.
Every day there's like 4 bottles of wine.
How do you know? You just take off?
You would only know a couple, about a half a day later, but you absolutely, then go back and correct it and say, these boxes came off the line and they might be contaminated.
Okay.
But we never found it. So you would pour a little wine and do a little, basically bacterial test on agar and stuff.
On like the main barrel?
Right. No, the bottles are going down the line, and you grab a bottle. Yeah, I would just grab every hour. I'd grab a bottle and just do a little test, and that would make sure that the bottling line was still clean. Otherwise, you stop the whole operation.
Yeah.
Waste thousands of dollars of time and effort and clean the damn thing again.
Yeah. Wait. So do you know if
quality
now?
Control.
Do you know if now?
So I had a lot of wine. A lot of wine in there. People would love to come visit me, by the way. So I would just send them here, just take some wine.
You're the man. You got all that.
Do you think now it's like computers test the wine as they go through instead of having someone individually to pour and test and wait like half a day? Do you think
it's possible that's but I doubt it because you still have to run it through. You still have to actually take a sample, and there's no way to really do that.
Okay. You were talking about how you were working night shifts, and your wife was working day jobs, right? And you guys, when you were looking for a job in the Bay, she went back up to Humboldt, and then you eventually went back up to Humboldt, right?
Oh yeah, we were gone for a couple of weeks. Joel got me this job, and I was like, hey, I got a job. And the same day I found a place too. So it took us like 2 months, and we never found a place. But down in San Luis Obispo, that day I called up this place. It was super cool. It was about the end of the road, and there was this giant lemon and avocado orchard in my backyard.
So you went
and we had
to
dogs, and so we'd run the dogs through there. That's cool. I mean, so it was like, oh, this is what we're supposed to do.
Yeah.
So you were working as an employee, as a lab assistant.
That was just like, whoa.
At what point did you, how long were you working as in the lab until before you became an owner?
Long time. So that just planted the seed. That was just like, whoa, I love this. 2 things I loved about it. I was learning a completely new set of skills and trades. I was applying my knowledge I had learned, but learning winemaking, learning wine chemistry, learning grape growing, and I was getting paid for it. I was like, dude, I'm never going back to school again. I'm getting paid to learn something? And I said, so that was my new thing. I'm never going back to school. I'm just gonna get paid to learn stuff. It was when I started figuring out wine culture, about how a grape takes on the characteristic of a place, and you can tell, like if you've seen the movies The Somm about sommeliers, you can tell by just tasting where the grapes were grown. Like that blew my mind because I was a grower and I was like, oh yeah, it's taking stuff out of the soil, the different temperatures, the different metabolism because it's cold at night versus warm at night. You can tell that gives the wine a signature. Yeah. And I was like, I want a Humboldt wine with the Humboldt signature because I grew up here. So that was 2000, 2001. That's when the seed was planted. Oh, I'm going to do this someday. And when you're in that industry, you see it all the time. You see these big wineries and all the underlings working their way up. And they eventually go on and start their own little wine brands, right?
Okay.
So it was like, okay, that's what you do.
Yeah.
If you're good enough, you start your own wine brand. Okay. So the seed was planted, 9/11 happened, the world kind of went haywire. My wife was like, I'm not going to do this. She wanted to go back and get her master's degree, and we just said, you know what, this is weird. Yeah, let's go back to the East Coast. You get your master's degree in education. And then I got my teaching job out there at Bryn Mawr College. So I took this sort of hiatus from this very short winemaking romance down in San Luis Obispo. And I went to the East Coast, and I first got a job doing a vineyard out on the East Coast. And the vines out on the East Coast are, they're fine, but they're not world class. Yeah. And then I got that other teaching job. So I never sort of left. I did start working part-time before my kids were born, and then a little bit on the weekends at a retail and import wine business. And they only imported German, Italian, and French wine. And that's when I really learned about the wine culture, how to taste wine. Like I knew how to make it in San Luis Obispo, but then I learned about wine in general.
On the East Coast.
On the East Coast,
okay.
Like the imports, and I learned all the food culture, and every wine is not just made a certain way. It grew out of 10,000 years of culture, right? It goes with the food of that area. Go to the coast of Italy, you'll have the perfect white wine for octopus polpo tapas. It's amazing. Well, it happens after 3,000 years of just interaction. Yeah. That's the wine that goes with that wine. So that's what they grow there. And so that's why wine culture and food culture is so awesome out there. It's just been so much longer. It's been evolving out there.
Wow. Okay. So
that's when I was like, yes, I'm doing this still. I love it. And I'm teaching botany, and I love that. But it kind of relates, I could just kind of go back and forth and tell students about wine and botany a little bit and how it's applied science, but it's also theoretical. And so I just kept teaching and kept working at the wine business.
Nice. Okay, wait. So
not knowing where it's going, hoping someday I might start a wine business, but not really. I mean, I had a good faculty job, right? Tenure track job is pretty good, but kind of something eating at me. Like I still worked at part-time in the wine industry. Why,
Yeah. Have you ever felt like your business or event deserves more attention? That's where AAA Productions comes in. We don't just make videos, we tell stories. From small businesses to community events, we also do real estate, aerial videography, and so much more. Let us help you stand out with cinematic content that connects with your audience. So, if you're ready to take your brand to the next level, contact me today using the links in the description, and let's make something amazing together. Thank you, and back to the show. You want to go full?
Yeah.
Get into the big leagues? So I was kind of confused with what you were saying earlier. So after the whole Bay Area like scandal, I guess, did you and your wife like split up for a while? Like you went to SLO, she went to Humboldt?
Oh no, just for a couple days. Just like let's just cool down. This is kind of annoying. You know, she'll go back and stay with her friends because again, we were living on this couch of this person we didn't know.
Yeah.
She just wanted to go regroup. I went and regrouped with my friend. That was like a week or two apart. And then all of a sudden this happened, and then we were back together in San Luis Obispo.
So you guys moved.
A couple weeks later,
You moved
the
into
job
that
started.
house
Yeah.
or apartment or
Yeah, it was a
whatever.
nice little house down in New Pomo. Anybody know New Pomo, San Luis Obispo? That was where we lived.
Nice. My grandparents are from San Luis Obispo. What vineyards did you say you worked at there?
The Edna Valley Vineyard, the oldest one in the vine,
And that's like,
right outside of the town of San Luis Obispo.
yeah, because that's where my grandparents live. They live in a community over there, and it's like all vineyards.
Yeah, I'd probably drive by on the way to work.
Yeah, most likely. Yeah.
The Seven Peaks and.
I'm gonna say it, but I'm gonna bleep it. Do you know?
No, I don't.
No. Okay. Or like.
Yeah, we grew grapes for it.
Okay, because I think that's like they live on. I think. Yeah. So, anyways, yeah. Next. Yeah, I know. Next.
I think we already went over this one, so I kind of want to jump to the next question.
Yeah.
What were some of the biggest challenges in moving from grape picking to becoming, or not grape, as a lab, working in the lab, and then going to education, and then going into becoming an owner? Like, what was the biggest challenge in transitioning from being an employee, working a job, to being a business owner?
Yeah, each one is a different transition, you're right. So you're just part of a big corporation with a boss at Edna Valley. Then I'm a teacher and I'm part of a faculty group. We were a small group of 8 in our department. And it was peer-to-peer stuff. As a teacher, you have a lot of autonomy in your classroom. But there's generalized standards and there's, college standards. So you don't have, it's not that you can do anything, but you have quite a bit of an autonomy in a classroom. But you're organizing, particularly in science, because there's labs. I was a hands-on teacher, and I specialized in inquiry-based science. So I didn't teach a lot. I made students do a lot. And that was my specialty, and that was a time. And at this college, they allowed a lot of leeway in what you could do. So I guess what I'm saying is there was a little bit of overlap there. I had to manage stuff. This is 2002 to 2012 when 2012 we started the business. So 2002, 2012, I'm in San Luis Obispo teaching. In Philadelphia teaching, and teaching is managing expectations. You have a syllabus. You got to get them to buy in. It's vision alignment. You got to get the students on board with this journey you're going to take them on. If you don't get buy-in, they're just resistant the whole time. I was really wanting them to buy in and learn. And so it's about managing these expectations. It's about vision alignment. And then I had like 12 graders and lab assistants that I oversaw. So every Monday we'd have a work meeting at 5 a.m. or 6 a.m., bring in some donuts. This is what we're going to do this week in lab. You have to set this up, this up, this up. So it's a lot of management, at least if you're kind of in the science lab realm. And so I think that's like team building and leadership, and those skills I think I honed there, not knowing that they would be transferable really to business.
It sounds like that is kind of like running your own business, because you got to oversee and manage what your graders and like people that set up.
It's going to get
doing.
done.
Yeah.
Get this done, this done.
Yeah.
And like a business, there's just deadlines. You have your syllabus. You could have your midterms, and you got your finals, and you got to get your grades in, and then it happens again. So these are the same sort of cycles.
How long did it take? How long did it take for you and the graders to like grade everyone's like papers or midterms or tests?
It was always like lab reports. We would get them to write lab reports. It evolved every year. I changed it up. I went to paperless class back in 2004. So way back, we were using the early blackboards and Canva platforms, and I'm like, this is the way to go.
Oh,
right?
wow.
And I also went to peer-to-peer grading. So you would learn a lot more if you wrote and then read your peers and then swapped papers. Mm-hmm. And then a grader who was just a couple years older than you would read your paper. So my graders were people who had come through my class. And then, so they were the juniors and seniors, and the freshmen and sophomores were taking my class.
Yeah.
And so the graders then would look at the paper. So I haven't read it yet, and I haven't graded it yet. But the paper's getting better and better from peer-to-peer learning and then from an older peer. And then I would make them grade themselves on what they're learning and progressing.
Okay.
And then they have a portfolio of all of this at the end of the year, and it's all online and documented into a digital portfolio. And then I'd make them give themselves a grade for the entire year. And that's only when I sort of looked over their portfolio and started grading them.
I was gonna say, was that kind of just on a
That was because I couldn't keep up with all the grading. It's crazy.
Okay.
There's no way I could read 300 lab reports and do a good job of grading. It was much more robust for students to get all that other really good feedback, even if it wasn't my feedback. They were getting feedback at least.
Interesting. Okay.
And then they often graded themselves lower than I would grade them. It was pretty cool.
Really? Yeah. No, like the worst kid in the class?
I rarely gave, maybe the whole time I gave people a worse grade than they asked, but I frequently gave them a better grade than they asked for.
Well, it's pretty trustworthy kids.
I don't know if that's how it works nowadays, but I would have embraced AI. We would have just used AI to do it instead. I think you can't get away from that. You have to just embrace it. Use it as a tool.
There's a big issue right now, like in school or in like with AI in general, where like you can't do your science or like any STEM related activities with ChatGPT or like any sort of AI because it would get it wrong. And I guess like the way you have to write and like understand and like being so hands-on, it's hard to train the AI yourself to like get that to work. So
that's what I mean. Just embrace it, see what it's good for. Because again, it's more about how do you use the tool, because junk in, junk out, right? Mm-hmm. So if it's the tool and then some kid thinks they're going to use it to write a science paper, it's going to be total junk. You can't just say, hey, write me a science paper on this topic. Yeah. So jump in and then show the students how crappy it is. And then that's a learning experience. Well, why is it crappy? How do you tell it's crappy? Well, how do we get better results out of this? Yeah. Then you're critically thinking, and then you're moving forward. And
that's why I think AI is beneficial. And a lot of teachers are like, hell no. Like, we're not doing this.
Everybody's, that's a longer story. We can get back to that if you want. There was a pivot there was a good question about every time I changed sort of a role, and eventually I became an owner-operator, right? And so we haven't really got there yet. Every change is different, but I learned some skills on the way that was going to help. And one of the interesting things is in academia, my whole life, being teachers, you think of capitalism as a Darwinian fitness thing, as it's always about competition, right? Sort of, at least from the outside, if you don't understand small business, you think of it as, oh, it's just competition. You're always trying to beat out your competitors, right? And so I kind of had that mentality. One of the main things I had to learn is it's not at all that. And I think most people know, if you're a small business owner, it's about relationships and it's about mutualisms. Because I have to buy something from somebody to make it into something and to sell it to some. It's all these connections. It's really collaboration. It's not competition. You have to find what's working in a network. You're not a business. Yeah, you're not really me against them. It's like, how are we all gonna help each other? Like, I needed corks, so I needed a relationship with the cork guys. I needed glass bottles. I need a relationship with the bottle guys. And if it wasn't a good, oh, my bottles are too expensive or they come from over here and I can't, well, it's just like a win-win. So you actually are looking for the win-win in business, not the I'm better and the zero-sum game.
Yeah.
And that was this huge mentality shift that I had to undergo when I got into business. Oh, it's actually all about win-wins everywhere I can go. And that was great. I mean, maybe that was why I succeeded. I actually figured that out, but I think most people do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember in one of my classes, our teacher was telling us to go out and like figure out what our competition is and what our like co-opetition is, you know, like people who you cooperate with, but are also like your competitors, and then people who are just like your competition as well, like who's doing the exact same thing as you. Yeah. So that's pretty cool that that's something you just like picked up instead of like learning it in school, you know? I mean, I guess like, yeah, because I feel like you learn a lot more going out and doing something rather than just sitting in a classroom and taking notes and then hoping someday it would pay off, you know? Like being out.
It does not hurt to have really good conceptual framework first. You'll go further if you have a good conceptual framework from your book learning, but you're absolutely right. You really go out and do stuff to learn.
Yeah.
And that was my inclination why I went to hands-on learning. It's like reading a book, you can ask Google now. Now you can ask chat.
Yeah.
Like it's the content isn't what's interesting anymore, or hard to get to, or hard to know. Yeah. If you think about it, oral communication was the first way we understood and had knowledge, right? So we had to sit and listen and kind of remember.
Yeah.
And then comes the printing press. So now you have books. And now you're in college doing the same thing we've been doing for 500, 1,000 years. It's ridiculous. It's not about what's in the book or the content anymore. That you can find at your fingertips. It's about critical thinking, what you do with it, analysis. Can you collaborate and get anything done with that information? It's not the information. There used to be experts that could just rattle off numbers, but now numbers and information isn't the asset anymore.
I think interesting. I think, you know, I keep revisiting like something you said earlier about your mindset towards education at one point in your life when you're in that mindset where I just want to get paid. I don't want to go back to school. And I think that mindset is something that a lot of people in our situation that are
freshly
younger,
out of school or something. Yeah.
They kind of get that mindset when if they finish school and the opportunity, they're not happy with the opportunities and they have thousands of dollars of student debt, they, you know, there's a little bit of a resentment factor that builds. And I guess that leads me to the question, do you still feel like, you know, the 4-year degree is, you know, the best route for somebody that's, you know, just new to the scene, just finishing high school and looking for their opportunity? What do you think about the education route as far as how it's, you know, is it getting better? Is it getting worse?
That's complicated. Good question. Yeah. I mean, I think it depends on every person. We're all different for sure. I don't think, like I said, a good conceptual framework, an intellectual framework is going to allow you to go further. Education itself is a tool. We keep on talking about tools.
Yeah.
I think one thing that I learned from education is I thought it was going to give me something and give me a job. I'm just going to do my 4 years and I'm going to get out and do. Guess what? That's nothing. If you just sort of sit through college, you don't get anything, and it's a waste of time. So there are absolutely people wasting time and money. And I remember being an advisor, and one of my colleagues walks down the hall, and my door's open, and I'm talking to a student. I'm saying, I think you should drop out and go just get a job. And they're like, whoa. They came back later and said, Wil, you're the biology advisor. I'm like, no, this kid is not ready, and they're wasting time and money.
Whoa.
So go do something until you know why you're in college. And I don't really think 18-year-olds, 17-year-olds are actually really ready. There's 20% of them that are. Boom, go for it. The rest aren't really sure in what they're doing. I would recommend at least like 2-year internships, travel the world, work. I wish we had work like cores for 16, 17-year-olds. Only kind of when you get a little life experience,
Yeah.
and you figure out maybe what you're interested in, you should go back to college.
Yeah.
So my kids, I'm like, community college or nothing, unless you're like brilliant and have it figured out. But again, I think it's like 2 out of 10 kind of really know what they're doing by 18 or 19, and the rest of us are just, So college can be a total waste of time, or it can be this extremely important tool.
Mm-hmm.
At some point, it's a really good tool, and you will get more money in the long run. But really, it will speed up your path to more money. But again, only if you know what you're getting out of it and putting a lot into it. So when I talk, so here's a classic example. You teach community colleges. If you teach at a 4-year college, the average freshman's age is 18 or even 17 and a half. You teach community college and they're like 34.
Yeah.
Those students are way better than 17-year-olds. I had to do no cajoling about what to do. They all got straight A's. It's a community college often is a great place to teach.
I think it's because they understand like the work ethic. You know, they weren't in school for like the end, like
they might have kids,
end half.
and they
Yeah.
might have 2 jobs, and you know what I mean? Like,
So they understand like what to do. Like if you assign them an assignment, like they're gonna do it and they're gonna try their best to do as best as like they can. Whereas like for me, if I had an assignment, like a 1-page write-up, and then I had 16 other assignments from all my other classes, and depending on which one I found more important, like if I was taking a botany class for my GE versus the 16 assignments were business related, I would probably focus on the business related stuff and then just, get something out. And
So until you know why you're going to college, it's important. I got my first job and got to become an assistant winemaker in 6 months without ever taking a winemaking job. I mean, here's the example. I had complete theoretical knowledge of science and chemistry and microbiology. I got a job, and I got a good job, and I went right up into the upper management of Edna Valley Vineyard.
so you never practiced it until
I was, I knew how to do labs. I knew how to do titrations. In science, you do have some hands-on skills, right?
Okay, yeah.
But I didn't take winemaking class though. I didn't take enology. I didn't take a viticulture class. I took plant pathology. I took soils. I took plant physiology. So I can't say that it's not good. It got me way further along than most of my peers.
do you think that's the application of putting like something that is sort of related and like applying it to like your job, like for example, you having a science background but no wine background, and you were able to apply the science to the wine and figure it out as you go? And like it's kind of like the same thing with me, where I've never had podcasting experience but I understand audio.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that. Like, do you think that's an important skill to
now
have?
now we're getting into entrepreneurship here.
Yeah.
Now we're getting into the heart and soul of what that means. And I had no wine experience and took science experience and went all the way with it. Opened my own winery and sold it, right?
Yeah.
So science became wine. Wine became entrepreneurship and business, and now same thing. I wasn't a business advisor, I wasn't a business major, and now I'm helping people with business. So again, you can just transferable skills, relatable skills, absolutely. But I think that's exactly what entrepreneurs do. They just go in, learn, and make it work, right?
Yeah.
Transfer whatever skills they have and make it apply to what they're doing. I don't think it hurts to go through the Cal Poly Business School or entrepreneurship program. You hear and know things a little deeper than somebody who doesn't. You probably make less mistakes. You'll have a shorter on-ramp to success if you do that, but you can still just be in business without going to business school.
Yeah.
If you're the right type of person, if you work hard, if you don't give up.
Yeah, that's like Elon Musk or like any of the big tech companies, like their CEOs, they either have had like school backgrounds, little bit of school or no school, and have still become world class, like billionaires, elites.
If you look at the ratio of like people who have like learning disabilities, they're overrepresented in entrepreneurs and small business owners.
Like,
if you like dyslexism.
Dyslexia?
Being dyslexic.
Yeah.
Is at much higher incidences in the population of entrepreneurs than it is in the whole population in general.
Oh, wow.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's cool.
People with reading problems that just have comprehension reading problems or something, much higher incidences in entrepreneurs than in the general population. So it's about doing. What that tells me is entrepreneurship, being a business owner, is about doing.
Yeah.
So your career path, I think we're coming out to the final step. We started science with your education, then we moved into you're in the lab working with wine, finding your passion there, and then back into education, but this time as a teacher, and then now you go back into wine. So there's a lot of transition here, and so I kind of want to go to the final transition, at least at this point, at this time, which is the transition from being an owner to the SBDC.
Yeah.
So what was that transition like? What was your exit strategy? And how did you end up at the Small Business Development Center?
Yeah, that was a shocking that was the most real transition I've had in a while. Because being a business owner is very different than running a nonprofit organization. It took some getting used to. So, we were just talking about business is about doing. Yeah. So I was the winemaker, the grape grower, the manager, the bookkeeper, and the delivery boy. I was delivering the wine. I drove around and took calls, and I did the whole thing. I never stopped. You never stop. And then you have an event, and you're pouring wine at your events. You've got pop-ups and vendor booths, and you're just like, I need new client acquisition. It's go, do, and worry about shit later, and your reports later, and legal aspects. You just gotta keep going.
Yeah.
Now you're just like in this nonprofit world where you have reports, and you got people that don't answer your call, but you need their signature on something, and it's 2 weeks later. Whoa, I had to just like slow down and relax, and learn how to use Google Calendar, all these meetings, people you're meeting with. A lot of different skill sets, really.
Do you have to, I don't know if please is the right word, but do you have to please a lot more people in a nonprofit organization rather than a business, like a regular business?
Well, that's a good question, because a lot of entrepreneurs start their own business because they want to be their own boss. You hear that a lot. I just want to work for myself. And that's a real misunderstanding, because once you're your own boss, you actually work for every single one of your clients.
Exactly.
You actually have 1,000 or 2,000 bosses.
Yeah.
And if you don't think of it that way, you're really not going to be in business very long.
No.
So yes, you have autonomy, and you're doing what you like as a business owner. Like being in a classroom, I could teach kind of what I wanted and how I wanted to teach it. You have autonomy, but you're working for the students, you're working for the college, or in business, you're working for your clients, right? In nonprofit world, you're working for the mission. And if you're not mission aligned, what made this easy and the transition easy is that I had gone through the entrepreneur journey. I'm a teacher and an educator. I really believe that I could help my community here, small business community. And so it's about being mission aligned. The nonprofit just operates a little slower, different timelines. And I think every business will just have a sort of different cycle of operations. And I guess it's not necessarily just nonprofit is so different. It's just that it was so different than my business.
Yeah.
It was so different than my business.
So just for the viewers watching, Luke had to walk off because he technically still is on the clock as we film this. He has to go deal with a walk-in. Yeah.
Thank you, Luke.
Yeah, those were some really good questions. I wanted to ask you about some numbers, if that's okay.
Okay.
So when you were doing business and it was hot, what was like the most you made in a year? Like the business, not what you took home, but like
the largest, it was revenue, top of the line. We talk about top of the line and bottom of the line. That comes from a P&L report. The top of the line is your revenue. That hit almost $400,000 one year.
Wow.
And that bottom line was about $80,000 that I used to pay back my it was OPM, other people's money. So that year I had $80K to just give back to them.
Were those
Pay off my debts from them.
what were your expenses? So like
Close to 300,000 in the wine business. You don't go into the wine business to make money. So let me just say that there's you basically start with $2 million to make $1 million, and it's a little joke in the wine business. It's a lot of businesses are that way. There's so much. It's asset heavy. You have to own land, which is super expensive in California. You have to plant a vineyard, which doesn't even really get profitable until 11 years in. So you have an 11-year amortization rate. You're sinking money in for 11 years. You know ahead of time you're not even going to profit until 11 years. Only the very rich and wealthy people can do that with money, right? Who else has the time to waste 11 years on?
yeah.
You need giant stainless steel tanks, complex presses and pumps. You need a winery space and facilities. You need tons of storage square foot. I mean,
Wow.
This is not the business you go in to make money as a small company.
So what you mean by like not taking or like not making money,
Costs are a lot.
like you don't take home a profit, you just
So I structured it as I got a guaranteed salary rather than you can just structure your business any way you want.
So
it was an LLC membership that I had a guaranteed salary as one of the members.
so the business never made any money, but you were able to take home some money for yourself.
And so, I was saying I'm going to make you 80 to 100,000 at the end of every year by year 7, and I'm still only going to take mine, right? My little share, but you have to fund it on this long runway of 7 years before we get there. So it was a trade-off, knowing that I could buy into it more, I could change the membership later, but this was my exit strat, right? Exit day 1, I set it up so I could walk away and save my marriage anytime.
Yeah.
I mean, my Uncle Pete is my wife's uncle, and he's Italian from South Philly, and he said, "You're already married, son." And so when he said, "What's your exit?" I said, "Okay, I understand you, Uncle Pete, I understand."
Imagine when you're about to get married, like on your wedding day, and the priest walks up to you and is like, "So what's your exit strategy?"
Yeah. No, we have a prenup. That's probably not what you want to hear from your priest or rabbi. Yeah.
I'd be like, "What the hell?" So you made 400,000, or the business made 400,000.
Mine had a lot of costs. Glass, COVID, crazy glass, an empty case of glass that I was going to put wine in used to be about $6 to $7 a case. It went up to 14. So talk about supply chain and problems that created spikes in cost. COVID was a nightmare. All shipping, I don't know if you remember, but all shipping stopped. Boats just were sitting out in the port of Los Angeles because there's nobody to offload them.
Yeah.
That disruption, I went from having cases of wine shipped up for me to driving all over the Bay Area to find wine bottles just to get all this stuff done. You only have one chance every year in the wine business. So business cycles are super important. I really like teaching about that.
Like seasonality?
I had one production cycle. Once a year, I had one shot. But, thinking about your cash to cash cycle, I'm going to put out this cash. You have to spend money to make money. That's another thing I start with in entrepreneurship. When you're not a business person, you have this money and you have a budget. You got to stay within a budget. It's opposite in business. You got to spend money. You just got to hope that you're making more money than you're spending. But it's not about not spending money. It's about spending money wisely. And every dollar needs a return on investment. So if you think about, oh my God, I got to spend money, but what's the return on this dollar I'm spending? If you think about every dollar spent as every little marginal increase you're going to get, you're going to do a lot better eventually.
Okay.
Yeah. So not a ton of money, but just enough to pay me a living wage for a while. My wife was a teacher. I had this business that just kind of did enough, and it's a lot of work. But you talk to rural small business owners, it really is just a way to create yourself a job that you have to work about 60 to 80 hours a week on.
Yeah.
But it's your job and you created it for yourself.
Yeah. That's what I like.
Ownership,
yeah. I would not care at all if I spent 100 hours a week working on something that I created for myself. That's like the best feeling in the world. Yeah, exactly. Like if I was working,
you're probably on the right track.
Yeah, if I was working 100 weeks or 100 hours a week, every week, all year, like I would be stoked because this is something that I created.
Kids, though.
Oh yeah. But right now,
I'm going to tell you things shift a little bit then.
Right now.
Or they don't.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe you have the awesome wife that just is like super mom and.
Oh yeah. No, I was just.
Or some other spouse
Got
that's
to
super
recruit the
partner.
grandparents.
Yeah.
Grandparents help a lot.
Yeah.
Oh my God, grandparents
Yeah,
help
they
a lot.
do.
I already enlisted my parents.
Yeah, me too.
I don't even have kids yet. They're already on.
But they're ready to go.
They know.
Yeah, no, I'd feel fulfilled with my life if I was able to work like that many hours a week. Since it was something that I created, if it was a 9-to-5 or like a regular job and I was working 100 hours a week, if the money was good, sure, but I'd also be very burnt out. But it's just like a different, like fulfilling feeling doing something that you started, So that's what I'm trying to work towards right now.
Well, 6 figures can cover a lot of burnout issues.
Yeah.
I mean, right? So if somebody's paying you enough, you're like, all right, I guess I'll do it. But you start working 60, 80, 100 hours a week for nothing, no, that's not going to work.
Yeah.
Most people cannot do that.
Yeah, it's hard.
Calling all entrepreneurs in Humboldt County. This video is brought to you by Startup Humboldt. Startup Humboldt is powered by the NorCal SBDC, Cal Poly Humboldt, College of the Redwoods, and Lost Coast Ventures, and we're building the future right here on the North Coast. Here you'll find an intersection between education, economic development, and community. Every entrepreneur can turn ambition into lasting impact, so whether you've got a new idea, want to launch a podcast, or need space to bring your vision to life, Startup Humboldt is the place. Visit us at 876 7th Street in Arcata. Startup Humboldt, where ideas become action. Let's get back at it.
So you're working these long hours because you make this business work. But now, to revisit the exit and the entry into the SBDC, what was your experience with that? Did you sell Trinity and immediately go to the SBDC? Was there a gap in between? What was that like?
Well, there was more like sort of some fits and starts. There was like, okay, I couldn't keep doing what I was doing, which was working really hard, and I hit a plateau. And this is a phenomenon in business where there's plateaus. You don't keep growing linearly, right? You can't just make a little more, because if you're only one person only has 24 hours a day, which means there's literally only so much that person can do. Yeah. So you eventually hit a plateau, and it's true with your operations, your mechanisms, your equipment. I only have one vehicle, so I can hire somebody and get some more done to make some more revenue. But is there added value, and am I making enough to pay for that person, right? And so sometimes there's these big gaps, and there's more like revenue plateaus. So you want to get to the next plateau, you need more equipment, more people to get to another level. So I had kind of maxed out with the assets that my partners and I had. We were done. And I was getting older, and I was like, here's my exit. I can't physically do what I'm doing anymore. I'm just, it's a lot of work. I'm in the vineyard all spring and summer. Then I'm harvesting, then I'm selling wine, and then I'm constantly selling it at different events. And then it starts all over, and I'm just getting burned out.
What was the seasonality again? August through November?
Harvest time is right now. It's September and October, a little bit into November, depending on certain types of grapes, and then that's it. And then you keep making the wine through December. It starts to settle down into barrels, and the barrels kind of sit, right? So it's really late August to December is just, that's your 100 hours a week.
Yeah.
I worked 66 days straight. And then I had a 4-hour break, and then I worked another 33 days straight.
4-hour break?
One Sunday afternoon, I'm like, I'm done. I just got to go take a nap, right?
Wow.
And then you go another 33 days straight.
Yeah.
That was because I had to keep my costs down. I was using other people's money. I didn't have my own money to spend. I was like, this isn't getting done if I don't do it, right?
Yeah.
And again, there you go. Almost broke up my marriage. All of a sudden, you're not around. That's a thing. That's a special thing towards seasonal. So if you're in restaurants around Christmas time and stuff like that, or retail around Christmas, it's like their seasonal time. Every business kind of has a seasonality, and there's just a time where you're just gonna. Think about being a tax accountant, right? Yeah. April's no fun.
No way.
Everything's after April.
Then you take vacation right after that?
Yeah, so exactly. Everything's kind of like that. The transition was I had fits and starts. I was going to buy into my next plateau. I wanted to be a manager and help the next level, the next younger generation learn about winemaking. I wanted to kind of just run the business, and so I was looking to buy a venue space where I could have weddings and music, and that they would buy my own, right? So I would sell my own wine to the venue space, but I'd be making money off the venue space. That deal fell apart because we couldn't get the 5 acres split into 2.5 acres instead. So once that fell apart, that's when I really started going, okay, I got to get out some way, and applied for a job here and there. My books were looking really good. I was profitable. I started looking for buyers, and then interviewed for being a director at the Small Business Development Center. All my connections in the business community, being a local business owner for 12 years. I knew restaurants and retailers, so they thought this might be a good move to have an actual business owner become the director of the business. But all my teaching, right? I knew how to develop classes. I could teach classes. I was...
There's a combination of...
my resume just somehow now fits. See, I had these dual careers, dual passions, and all of a sudden they've merged into one. I am now teaching entrepreneurship.
On top of growing up here, which makes you...
And then, having a lot of
you have like a very deep connection with Humboldt, which really gives you a lot of leeway, out in the field and talking to people.
Networking is so important.
You're a legend out here in Humboldt County.
Yeah, right.
Wait, so
In my own mind.
Let's talk some more figures here. I've been waiting to know about this since we talked a couple days ago, and I'm sure the audience is pretty interested. How much did you sell the business for?
Value. I learned about valuation. So you want to know about how to value a business?
Yeah.
There are some common little calculators, metrics that you can use. So it can be six times your profit, or 0.3 times your revenue. So if I'm making $400,000, I can, because it's about future money into somebody else's pocket, what that's worth to them to buy into. And so I think it's I'd have to look, shoot.
Okay. So is that why?
But it was, so if I think about that,
There's a lot of different calculations.
Yeah, it depends,
that-
and it depends on every sector too,
Yeah.
and what the cash flow looks like. But if I'm making 400,000, that's top of the line. Half of that is 200,000. You might get 200,000
For the business.
business, right? But that's based only on revenue. What are your assets, right? So how you value a business, are you buying land with that business?
Yeah.
Are you only buying the name of right, which is called Blue Sky?
Yeah.
Just the brand name. What that really means is are you buying all the sales reps and the distributions? Are you buying then an instant money cash generator, right? Are you buying tanks and winery tanks? Are you buying, right? What are you buying? So how to value a business is really confusing. So it took me a few years. That's what I'm saying. How you want this business? Well, what are you selling it for? I know a local distillery around here sold for $35K. You could have bought a really cool local distillery brand.
35 grand.
You could have been selling whiskey, gin, and some other, and vodka, if you had $35K.
Wow.
And you could have bought the whole, you would have bought in, you'd have to pay for the lease of the building, but you would have bought their equipment,
Yeah.
the brand, and their distribution lines, if you could keep them up.
Yep.
All they would give you is a phone number. Right? So when you buy a business like that, you're like, oh, cool, I'm going to be making X amount of money every year. They show you the P&Ls. This distillery was making about $350K a year, like mine. It was almost exactly like my wine business. And I thought about buying it. I was like, oh, that'd be cool. I could also do that.
Was that the one you were going to try to acquire?
That was a different one. So exits. I was thinking of exits and growth and all kinds of things. Oh.
Wait, so on Shark Tank, a lot of people come in and they're like, oh, I would like $1 million for 1%. And that's like, what, $100 million valuation or whatever?
Yeah.
It's like, how come their sales or their pre-revenue or their sales are super low? How do they get valued so high? But then like a distillery was making $350K a year and only valued at $35K. Like, how does that? Is it just like the industry difference, like you were talking about, or is?
Well, assets can be a big factor.
Yeah, it's whatever the asset is the potential revenue stream. Like, it's hard to make more than that in a small distillery unless you go huge, and then you're competing with the big, huge distillers, and you can't, right?
Yeah.
That's
so interesting.
Yeah. So the valuations of businesses are interesting, and so then I found what was called a strategic buyer. And a strategic buyer is a buyer then that for some reason the business holds sort of a different type of value, right? And it's not necessarily monetary value. It's just a acquisition for them that makes a lot of sense. And in this case, it is actually a really clear example of a strategic buyer. I was already doing business with this buyer. I bought a lot of my grapes from this buyer. So I was already buying grapes from them. And I had Mendocino grapes and Humboldt County grapes. I was making Humboldt County grapes up in Humboldt County. I was making Mendocino grapes at this person's facility. So I was also paying this person what's called the custom crush fees to basically, I would come down once a week and we would make the wine together, and I would just give him a recipe or we'd taste wine, and then he would have his crew do what I asked him to do. Okay, so he's already making money off me. I'm already buying grapes from him, and he's a Mendocino company that wants to expand up in Humboldt. What do I have? I have a Humboldt County market. I'm selling 3,000 cases a year up in Humboldt County. It would take him decades to build that on his own. So the value of the business wasn't really the money it was generating. It was the money he was going to lose if it closed, plus the potential new market he could get into.
Okay.
So there's like the extra different kinds of value here.
Yeah, that's.
And he bought it.
Interesting.
I can't remember. It was like 140K or something.
He bought the business for 140K.
Yeah.
What? And that was.
So he bought, and really most of that was just the inventory of my wine. which was a lot of it was sort of his wine already, right? So in that case, he wasn't really buying much except all this wine that actually has worth.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's what you
have all your cost of goods sunk into a warehouse of wine.
Yeah.
The cost of goods are $70 a case, $80 a case. They're selling for twice that much. There's a lot of value to be had on just buying the inventory. Mm-hmm. So so mostly he just bought the inventory, and I gave him all the phone numbers of all the people I know and said he's awesome and helped him get settled up here.
Nice.
That's how you got out. That's how you exit, man.
Yeah.
And that's what the business was valued at, based off like the value, like it was.
It's valued at whatever somebody's going to pay for it.
Okay. Wow.
Like nobody but him was going to pay that price for it. Right? Because he had all those strategic other values that it came with, kind of.
Did you get a lot of offers?
No, we had some people that were interested though.
But
And in
no
fact,
one offered
there's
anything?
one more person that I'm maybe helping him sell to potentially.
Nice.
Bring it back up into Humboldt.
Oh wow, cool. Okay.
Once you build something, it has a life of its own, right? I mean, it's a brand, and people don't know me. It becomes bigger than me,
Yeah.
And so that's something you built. And do you see the North Coast SBDC as something that you're building or you've built over the last 2 years?
I'm putting a mark on it, I hope, but no, what I really liked about the transition is I pretty much worked alone, on my own. I had some partners, right, and I had people that would work for me seasonally, but working, the North Coast SBDC is part of a huge network, and it feels really good, and we're all really mission aligned, and I think that was one of my favorite parts of transitioning. It was like, oh, this is a huge process. There's lots of people helping me with this mission. I don't feel alone anymore.
Yeah.
I'm not lying in bed going, am I going to ruin my family or not?
Yeah.
Oh, I just got to make my mark here, work together closely with this really great nonprofit mission of helping small business people in my community. That feels great. I'm part of a much bigger machine.
Part of something bigger.
Yeah, part of a bigger machine. I think, Luke and I are working to grow what people think of North Coast SBDC.
Yeah.
And I appreciate your work on that. I mean, we're out in the community a lot more than we used to. And so I hope we were making a mark.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, when Nancy, shout out Nancy, brought us into the building, and everyone was looking for like an advisor to go talk to, I don't think your name was on the list, but I asked Nancy, I was like, can I talk to you? Because I was like, I thought you were like, not, maybe I thought at the time you were the owner, or at least like a higher up. And I was like, I want to get to know him, and I want to like talk to him and like pick his brain a little bit about business and stuff. And then, every time I think about Startup Humboldt, like I always thought about you, I didn't know Dan or John at the time until I really got in here and like started like working like closely with you guys. You're leaving a mark.
Yeah, we're leaving a mark. I mean, this is definitely a consortium. The fact that SBDC now is even bigger than it was. So we had our own network and we had our own history, and now we've just grown it again. Maybe that goes back to, it's not a competition. Mm-hmm. It's where's the win-win? Yeah. Where are the partnerships? You're in an ecosystem. It's back to my biology. It's not survival of the fittest. It's the survival of who fits in their network. Yeah. Connected and relying on each other. Yeah. And you keep building that network, you're just stronger. You have more and more allies. You have more and more resilience to perturbations from the outside. You are quicker to get back after you fall. So this was just a great chance when the stars aligned that this building came up. These partnerships already existed. Some of them I built. I went to San Luis Obispo with John and Dan to look at another co-working space. That was a big turning event. I was like, wow, I think we trust each other. I think we should do this,
You guys were going to open in SLO first?
So SLO has a SBDC co-working space and they're kind of a model for us here. So because SPDC is a partner with Cal Poly San Luis Obispo.
Oh, yeah.
It's a perfect model, and they had a space. That's a co-working space. So it's been a very great, they've been mentors to us. As soon as HSU turned to Cal Poly, that's when all these stars started aligning.
Wow.
You
That's
know?
really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I do remember being interviewed for this job and saying right at lunch that I was going to move the office though, because we were in a really weird office in Eureka. I loved Eureka. I love being in Old Town. I do miss being in Old Town.
It was a nice location.
Yeah, I would go for walks, and I would go out and meet people all over Eureka. It's a great place to do business. It was a horrible office, though. So I was like, we're moving. Yeah. So I do take credit for knowing right then and there, the very first day, that we're not going to be there very long.
Yeah.
And it turned out way better than I thought. I mean, having this amazing co-working space with a digital maker space where you can do podcasts. I mean, it's fantastic. This space is fantastic.
Yeah. It was nice of you guys when I first came in here for my first day. And you guys were like, "Oh, welcome to the podcast room. Do you know how to set up the equipment?" I was like, "Of course."
Wink.
Yeah. I was like, "Of course I do." So then with a little bit of help from our producer here, Tomas, we got everything up and running, and look at it, second episode. I'm excited to see how many we can do.
I'm super stoked for you guys. I think it's, again, entrepreneurship here. You're taking advantage of some underutilized assets we have here.
Exactly, yeah.
We're finding a win-win. We're trading for time and your expertise. We'll monetize it as soon as we can. We know that these things take a while.
Yeah.
You just keep building it. Think about your exit occasionally, just every once in a while.
I don't know what I would do.
What's going to happen if this doesn't work out? But yeah, great opportunity, and keep it up. I think this is a good example of an entrepreneurial activity that may just turn into something big. So
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping for.
your own job, at least.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping for. Yeah. So, any other questions?
I think we covered it all.
Yeah.
Nice.
That was pretty good.
Do you have any closing thoughts or advice for the audience or advice for us?
Cool. I love the name. Behind the Redwood Curtain, rural economic development. That's what it's all about. Rural economic development is tough. Rural business ownership is tough. The market shares are smaller. The money that's flowing around is tighter and leaner. You can't rely on your neighbors to float you because they don't have a lot of money either.
Yep.
There's a lot of challenges in rural business, but people are resilient up here. People need to work and have meaningful jobs and dignified life, and I think being a business owner is a way to do that. And you'll carve out something. And if you need to do that, come on into the Small Business Development Center. We're here to help you.
Shout out Startup Humboldt.
Yeah. Startup Humboldt Innovation Hub is where you go to find SPDC and help to start up a business.
Any other closing thoughts?
No, thank you very much and good luck.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah. All right, everyone. That's the end of this episode. Make sure to like and subscribe for more just like this. And we're looking forward to seeing you guys at the next episode. So everyone, have a good day. Remember, all right. See you guys later.